Okay, so I've been going to Christ Embassy here in London, in the UK, since 2004. So, as a very young child, I went through the children's church, the teens ministry, and eventually the campus ministry. Christ Embassy was a very big part of my life. I was involved in the church, I was involved in giving, I was serving in the choir and the ministry. And now I want to go into my healing testimony, well, my healing story. So, like I said, I was born with a condition called sickle cell anemia, genotype SS, and it affects the red blood cells and it's genetic. So, coded into the stem cells of my bone marrow, the cells that are produced have this mutated gene that can cause painful crisis, infections. It can cause organ failure. It can cause a lot of problems, but what is commonly known is sickle cell crisis and pain. Knowing me physically, you wouldn't be able to see or know that I have sickle cell unless you see that I have very jaundiced eyes one day, or if you see me walking with a limp or a crutch one day, or if I'm bedbound in hospital because of a sickle cell crisis. And because of the word of faith doctrine that they believe that if you speak it, it will happen to you. From a very young age, being within the ministry, I was told that I am already healed. So there were times where I would be sick or unwell, but I couldn't articulate that because speaking such upon yourself is you accepting the sickness and accepting that you have that thing, therefore causing you to, experience more symptoms. That's what they believe, which I think is crazy. So it's something that I've always grown up with. And one day, because it was affecting my academics a lot, I went to the pastor and the pastor said that I should go to the healing school. Now, at that time, during 2016, the healing school used to happen in person. Right now, they're doing something called, they rebranded to the healing streams, which is what they're promoting very heavily. But with the healing school, there was one in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and there's one in Canada, Toronto. Long story short, I went to the one in Canada, and it was from there that I saw that things were not as they seem. Now, when it got to the 19th day is when the man of God will lay hands on you and pray for you. And what happens there is that a lot of people have been invited to come and watch because it's like a show. Like, pastors come from around the world to see how Pastor Chris is healing these people. There are young people who come for either the Easter youth camp or the summer youth camp to come and watch. There are people who just come because they just want to watch the healing phenomena happening. So on the day, Pastor Eddie Owase, who is basically like the poster man for the healing streams, he will tell us, when you see the man of God, you must look into his eyes directly. Don't be distracted. Don't even pray. Just look into his eyes. He was very specific that we must look directly into his eyes. Another thing that he said was, as soon as the man of God prays for you, I want you to start lifting up your crutches, lifting up your wheelchairs, cartwheels, runs, theatrics, anything. He would tell us, he would show us, he would give examples. Run to the other side. So there's the stage, there's the audience, and then there's the sick people on one side. When Pastor prays for you, you are to run to the other side whilst doing those theatrics. So that's what we were instructed to do prior to the healing session. But another thing that I think is very, very important for people to know is that when people see that there are all those beds there in the healing school, all of those wheelchairs, every single bed is identical. Every single wheelchair is identical. These people were not wheeled throughout the streets of Canada in a wheelchair. They were not wheeled throughout the streets of Canada inside those stretchers. Those stretchers are permanently there in the healing school. They belong to the church. It's church property. So those people who were placed in those beds, I saw them. I was in the lessons with them. They were not in stretchers during our lessons. They were seated. They were walking. Whether they were walking with a limp, they were walking and they were seated. So the stretchers were not something that was there throughout the sessions while we were learning during the healing streams. The wheelchairs were not there. Every wheelchair was identical. And something that happened was, I remember so I stayed in a hotel that was next to where the healing school was taking place. So I was frequenting with the different people who had come to get healed. There was a woman who was walking obviously she had her illness, but she was walking. On the day that we had the healing service, they put her in a wheelchair because they said, oh, she's limping. Like, okay, they classify us by sickness. If you have a sickness that cannot be physically seen, you are in the front row. And then as your sickness gets progressively worse, they put you in the rows behind. So the last row is the beds. The row in front of that is the wheelchair. The row in front of that is the people with crutches. The row in front of that is the people with maybe wounds that we can see. And then the row in front of that is the people who have sicknesses that we can't really see. So, of course, I was in the row with the wheelchair, with the crutches. But the row behind me, the people with the wheelchairs, they didn't come in wheelchairs. Like, there were people that were at my hotel who were maybe limping, I understand, with a chronic illness. One day you're walking, one day you're limping, one day you're bedbound. But for them to have the wheelchairs and the beds there, it's because they're saving the best till last. That's when the momentum really builds up. Okay, so when they get to me, I'm in the row with the crutches. The man of God looks into my eyes and he declares me healed of a genetic condition that he cannot see, without any evidence. So he says, you're healed. As he says I'm healed, I am told by the pastors who are cheering us on to come to the other side, someone literally takes my arm and says, puts my arm up with the crutch in the air. The thing is, I was walking without the crutch. I was limping, yes, but I was walking without the crutch. So as I'm have the crutch raised up, I can see people in the audience looking at me with tears in their eyes, saying, wow, this girl has just been healed from sickle cell. I was limping before I came. The crutch, like the fact that I limped to the other side does not show that I have been healed. Yet everyone's in the audience faith has been so stirred because they believe that I've been healed from sickle cell. Okay, now we get to the service ends. And then everyone who has just been healed is congregated. This is when they now decide to give us a book called The Counterattack. So they give us the book, The Counterattack. They say, this book is about the counterattack. Because now, after you go back to your homes or whatever, Satan is going to attack you. The symptoms are going to come back. Expect the symptoms to come back. So to me, that it was giving damage control. It was as if they knew that, you know, if anything happens, let's just let them know that, you know, Satan's about to attack you. So you can't really speak against the fact that, oh, I came to the healing school and I'm still experiencing symptoms. No, because the book says that there will be a counterattack. So if I was to go to Eddie Owase or Pastor Chris or any of the pastors there to say, oh, I'm still experiencing symptoms, they'll say, remember the book, remember what we taught you. This is the counterattack. This is the counterattack. So they've already thought ahead in the damage control that they need to do to preserve the belief that people have been healed. Remember, sickle cell is a genetic condition. If I want to know if I've been healed, I would need to do genetic testing. But the moment I got back to London, I had the worst sickle cell chest crisis of my life. The belief was that, oh, no, I need to defend the man of God. Like, I'm healed, but this is just a counterattack. And if people want to know, oh, so why do people not speak out immediately? Why do they not come and tell their stories immediately? It's because you are taught during that 19-day indoctrination program to never speak sickness over yourself, never speak against the man of God. And they also say, never leave the ministry that healed you. So now I have an eternal contract with the ministry, because if I leave, the healing will leave. I have eternal contract with the faith proclamations that I need to read. And also they say that you must testify. You must testify of your healing in order to keep it. So now here I am, still experiencing symptoms. With everything that I've learned from the healing school, I then become an ambassador of sorts. I become an evangelist. I become an influencer for Pastor Chris. When you go on stage and you tell your testimony, I want to thank the man of God, Pastor Chris, for healing me. And I want to thank the partners who are giving money to the healing school for your contributions for keeping the healing school going. And I always ask myself, if the healing school has so much money, they weren't feeding us, they weren't housing us. It was just the money's going to publicity. They're pushing out these flyers, these banners to get people to tune in, to get people to watch, to get people to give. Meanwhile, there are cases of people who are still experiencing the symptoms. And I think one of the dangerous things to me is the fact that with the desire to promote the healing school and promote the man of God, Pastor Chris, there has been an instance in my life where my personal leader, okay, I just want to say this. That wasn't the last time that I encountered Pastor Chris physically. I went to the Healing Streams online version again in 2023. And there was a time where he came to the UK in 2019 and healed me again for a second time after proclaiming me healed in 2016 in front of a new audience now who were cheering and praising God, not knowing that this was the second time I'd been healed. That was in 2019 in Barking. So yeah, I think it's dangerous because when I got to university, that was 2023, where I went to the healing school for the third time, but this time it was online. My leader had a cousin who had cancer, who was proclaimed healed during the Healing Streams online service, but unfortunately ended up passing away. And then that same leader, using their faith, after I had gone through the online version of the program, said, "Congratulations, you are now healed sickle cell. You will now have genotype AA. And remember, you are always told to testify of your healing." So now I've essentially become a hired actor. I can't tell people that I'm still experiencing symptoms because it will go against the man of God. It will go against the indoctrinations of healing. And I'm telling people, yes, thank you, man of God, I have AA while still experiencing these symptoms. And yeah, I think it's very dangerous that they have built such a commercialized dynamic around healing